Yeah. You've got a base and some sort.
If you guys don't mind, I think I'll just try hopping about the rooms just to see exactly how this night is going to be working. But, yeah, it was nice bumping into all of you though, especially Nate. I've seen your work a lot as well. Very nice. Stephanie as well.
Right, same.
Nice,
Big fan.
nice meeting you guys. Yeah.
Is that a thing that we can do? Is like jump from room to room?
I guess
Right.
you could leave. I don't know.
Apparently, I think. I don't know how though. Unless you just leave the room and then.
Yeah, I expect you to leave the room and then ask to be reassigned to another one. So.
Fair enough.
I have no idea how it works. This will be my first Zoom meeting.
That is understandable. I assume if you do it enough, then you can end up like re-meeting everyone and stuff. So it might not be the end of the world.
Well, since I've got you here, Nati, may I ask you what type of materials do you like to use?
I expect you'll have seen that I work pretty much exclusively traditionally.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's
Definitely.
really just pencils, and I mean I recently posted a photo with my kind of standard kit, as it were, and it's just an array of pencils. I mean, I usually have. I'm just trying to pick the nearest thing that's fine. I mean, just pencils usually. I mean, what I tend to do these days is sketch with a brown pencil. This is what I was doing in the Paleo art workshop. I don't know whether how many of you were in one of the groups, but and that's
how you doing, babe?
That's a brown.
How's the after party?
Sketch. I usually start with that and then work into it with a regular graphite pencil. You know, but it's not always a fixed process.
Oh, cool.
It's just whatever I happen to be doing at the time. And other than the pencils, then I love using watercolors and ink.
That's all he got?
I mean, yeah, that's really.
Oh wow, lucky bastard! Fuck.
I don't have.
So during a Black Lives Matter protest on late night Friday,
tools or anything like
some guy driving a BMW plowed into a crowd of 50 protesters in New York City.
It's about the artists, really.
And all he's been charged with is reckless endangerment. Because 6 people were hit, but everybody else jumped out of the way. A number were taken to hospital, though none of the injuries were life-threatening. The woman driving was detained and questioned by police. After initial investigation, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, the operator of the vehicle has been charged with reckless endangerment.
That's not for things like...
Video from the scene in the busy area of the city showed pedestrians approaching a black vehicle carrying placards. The vehicle then accelerates, crashing into a number of people and sending a bicycle flying through the air as people screamed. Several people were shown on the ground in the aftermath.
In terms of the general...
The protest organized by the Black Lives Matter group is drawing attention to a hunger strike by immigrant detainees in New Jersey. The incident resembled recent confrontations in which cars have been driven at protesters in the U.S.
Yeah, I saw about was it Cretaceous rock watercolors that you got?
Right. Yes, they were made by Mary Stanch, who lives in Canada, and these she works as a graphic designer at the I forget the name of the museum. I've forgotten it, but anyway, I mean that's her main. But she is an artist, and also she went and sourced these rocks, which actually date back to the Cretaceous, and she's been making watercolors with them. And yeah, I bought myself a set recently, and I've been just enjoying using them.
That sounds like fun. Painting dinosaurs with Cretaceous rocks.
Exactly. I thought that was quite novel.
That's very cool.
Very appropriate, really.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder if you could try using Jurassic shales or
I've just been talking with Barrett a bit while
kind of
we've been
more.
chatting.
Well, you could use like charcoal, couldn't you? From like from the more sort of Jurassic
yes.
rock.
Yeah. I guess if you were able to date it.
There we go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who's here? Who's in this one?
Me now.
Oh, hey!
David.
Hello.
Wow, it's nice to see everyone's faces, like for real.
Huh.
Wow.
Interesting.
Sorry, I was
They're
darting back and
just
forth,
about
in the session
ready
earlier.
to
I
send the
was
first
cooking
crude
fish
flight
cakes.
up on
That was just the
Virgin
most, like,
Galactic's
inconvenient time.
reusable Unity vehicle
But yeah, no, the
to take off from its
the
own purpose-built
theropod that you did, the
commercial
3D design was
spaceport in New
amazing.
Mexico.
The texture.
Oh, thanks, man.
Great.
Sir Richard
Yeah,
Branson's
I
company
wasn't
will
sure what I
begin
was gonna
space
do today,
tourism
so I
flights
just
in
thought-
2021.
I thought everyone was
Already
gonna
more than
have
600 paying customers,
2D
including
part
Justin
covered, so I
Bieber
thought
and
I'd try
Leonardo DiCaprio,
Why
are
not?
booked to
But
take a ride on the
I just wanted
plane,
to show that
each
it's
paying a
not such
ticket
a
price of
scary thing to do. It's
250,000
actually
US.
pretty easy, and there's so many great tutorials.
It's
online
250,000
for
times
absolute
600.
beginners. Like I say, my kids.
That'll
here,
pay some bills.
my 11-year-old made this, right?
Oh.
Oh wow.
He sculpted it in
That's
ZBrush,
$150 million.
and we 3D printed it, and it's a little Arsenotherium.
Sorry.
Because he liked
I'll let
he
you
liked
enjoy your
Mark
after
Whitman's
party.
thing, and then he did the baby as well in here with a broken horn. But yeah, so I mean, and my 9-year-old does it too, so it's not like this terrible, scary thing, you know. It's actually quite therapeutic. So
I'd have loved to have
I don't.
that when I was a kid.
What's that? Oh, it's a,
cool. What's
it's
that?
a Santa Claus machine. It's like
on the bottom.
Right now, I'm sculpting. I'm printing out a 1/35th scale Sinoceratops here. Let me see.
That is a unique design.
I don't know if you'd even be able to see it, but anyway, it's in that orange thing there. But it's a total Santa Claus machine. I've printed Lego pieces for my kids. I've like I did a really cool Lego Sauron, Lego Witch King. It's like, yeah, so awesome. I wish I had this as a kid.
It's amazing.
What time? Wait, where is everybody? Is anyone in North America?
Yeah, I'm in New Mexico.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're right next door.
I'm in Seattle.
Oh, okay. Okay.
South America here.
Oh, really? Where at?
Ecuador.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Yeah, I have 2 of my kids' teachers are from Ecuador, both of them. So
Really?
they speak Spanish with a bit of an Ecuadorian accent. So.
Well, my generation mostly has a Mexican accent now because of
Yeah, that's what they said. They said their accent is more Mexican Ecuadorian kind of thing. They said so. Yeah. They can all speak Spanish, but I can't. So. Natty, where's I don't recognize you without a coin next to you.
Coin to hand. Well, here it is.
That's the one?
the one.
I found something very interesting in an article I'd love to read with you.
You're wait, was I
Is
muted?
basically
sorry, I
the
misclicked.
new gut-brain
Yeah,
axis
your,
has been
drawings are so
scientifically
gorgeous,
found
like,
to be true.
Thank you.
You got such a delicate,
Also,
delicate
they
hand,
actually
you
said
know?
a
It's
high
just,
salt intake
yeah,
causes
so
profound
nice.
immune changes in the gut, which results
can
in
now-
an
Yeah,
you're
increased
welcome.
vulnerability of the
Published
brain to
actually everybody
autoimmunity
that they
diseases.
cleanse himself.
Oh, please.
That-
Yeah. Sure. Hold on. That makes me uncomfortable. So how does this work? Do they like kick us out to another room or something? Or I don't
Yes.
know.
Apparently, yes. Sometimes you just get yanked. and
We've
they-
been distributed to a lot of breakout rooms.
We need to appease the breakout room
Oh.
gods.
Rooms 10. Yep, 10 different breakout rooms.
Let me see. Well, this would be a lot more fun if it were for real with alcohol.
I'm covered.
Oh,
Right,
I
you're
It's-
should have
right.
thought of that. I was downstairs.
It's
Got me too.
it's 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock in the afternoon here. I can't do that just yet. I'm stuck with a green. I'm stuck with a green smoothie. So
Chocolate.
It's 22:56 over here.
I have
Way past
Oh,
working hours.
tea.
Oh, very nice. Very civilized.
Hmm.
I got so messed up with the time things on this. I was like, it's like, you know, when you get your airplane ticket and it has it in military time, and I'm constantly checking because I'm afraid I'm gonna miss my flight. That's what this was. I'm like, okay, 17:30 GMT is what in PST? Oh yeah, there are 9 joins. Wow.
Well,
So
here's
what does
the-
everybody do? Are you all? Are there any other artists in here?
I dabble.
Hobbyist,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
tried it.
okay.
before.
Yeah, hobby
What's
artist.
that? Okay. Okay. And then
That's
David, I
good,
met
isn't
you once at an SVP. That was Cleveland,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I remember that.
Possible. I've
Yeah.
been to almost every recipe since then.
Oh my gosh. Huh. I'm looking for no,
That's
not
a
on here.
message from the chat. Is it okay to send portfolio links? I guess so.
What are you studying now, David? What are you working on?
Still the same thing. Origin of this amphibians and tetrapods in general, and
Mhm.
origin of amphibious and terrestrial lifestyles.
Yeah.
Just got a preprint out on molecular dating all across jawed vertebrates. I was taking such a molecular dating paper and double and triple checking all the calibrations, because almost all of them were wrong, like outdated or something, because to be
Ooh, very
really
nice.
up to date with this, you have to burrow through the most recent paleontological and chronostratigraphical literature. And of course, molecular biologists tend not to do that. They rely on published compendia or published lists like Benton and Everybody 2015. So everything in there is outdated by at least 5 years already, or
Yeah.
even
Oh my
older
God.
versions.
Oh my
The
God.
paper I started from was from 2017, but did not cite the 2015 version, cited the 2009
So
version, 2007.
You're
And
wow.
all
So you're
cited each
constantly
other. That was a lot of work to find all the literature.
chasing the newest stuff, And do you
Hey,
ever
sweetie,
find a moment where you're all
I'd like
caught
to
up
spend
and
the rest of the evening with you
can-
at
for
that
about
paper,
6:30
well,
in a half an hour.
well, all the chasing is
Maybe
just
we can
for that
you can
particular
come and
paper.
people hang out and watch me
Yeah,
play
I do think I'm
Cyberpunk.
caught up now, mostly. But, I mean, nowadays with Google Scholar and everything, this is a lot more feasible than it was even 5 years ago.
I know. Like who buys books anymore? Does anyone buy books anymore? Yeah, Rick.
Regularly, yeah.
Depends on the book.
I think.
So, like to support bookshops.
Oh no, here, absolutely, yeah. There's but like, I just went through because I had to move to like the COVID house because my house was getting crazy, so I had to rent a whole COVID house, and I had to go through all my library of 30 years worth of books, and it's like you buy it for that one drawing, back in the 90s, because that was the only place you'd be able to find that drawing, and now it's just like. So many of those books, it's so sad. I don't know what to do with them all. I can't get rid of them. It's just
yeah. My dad's an artist, and he's got huge, and he's 88. He's just having end of life care, but he's never used the internet. Always did his artwork through books and references, and people would go till about 10 years ago. People would his friends and colleagues would go to the house to just look in his books for reference. Google Images does it all now.
Yeah, and that's what I found too, because like working in the film industry for the longest time, I had kind of an edge because I had all the books.
By the way,
did
you? I don't know if you heard, but
we need to go to David to
a
find out what this
combination
looks,
of
I
a
know he has,
team
and then so I had
from
kind of an edge, but now
Australia
it's gone.
and
like,
from New Zealand, the US,
7-year-old
and
can find
Belgium
the same
cracked
thing
the
I have,
Zodiac killer's code.
Well, I think there's still a few gems tucked away off the internet, though, on anything.
Because
after
his last murder, he sent a message. The killer, who was never caught, murdered 5 people in stabbings and shootings that terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area in the late 1960s. The message he sent was one of several sent to newspapers during the killing spree. The code was solved by 3 people from the US, Belgium, and Australia. The last message he sent reads, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise.
I found
all the
these.
sooner because now I have enough slaves to work for me."
Archosaurian
The
articulations.
decrypted
Anyone remember that?
message ends
This is like
without
George
throwing
Joseph
any light on
Olszewski
his
from
identity.
1990, I think.
In a
I
video
found
posted
all
on YouTube,
of them.
Virginia web-based
Yeah.
designer David Aranchik
Unbelievable.
says he cracked
There's
the
so many,
cipher along
and then
with
there's, like-
Australian applied
going
mathematician
through all these
Sam
old
Blake and
papers,
Belgian
it's
Jarl
crazy.
van Eck, a
I'm
warehouse
afraid to look
manager
at.
and
I'm afraid to
code-breaking
look
software
at my
engineer.
old books because then I'll fall in love with them again.
The message,
and then I'll
which
just hang
Mr.
on to them
Ranchik
again.
describes as more of the same attention-seeking junk from
Trying to figure
Zodiac,
things down.
consists of rows of capital letters and symbols.
If you need
The
to throw a book
code-breaking
out,
team, who used
it's
human
in your
ingenuity
house,
and software to
if you
decipher the
open it,
message,
you'll find
dedicated their
something that will
efforts to the
interest
killer's
you, and you
victims
will
and their
cherish it
and their
keep it.
relatives.
So just don't open the
Confirming the
cover.
code-breaking achievement, the FBI said
That's
it will
kinda where
continue
I'm
to
at.
seek
That's
justice
exactly
for
it.
those who are killed. He's never been caught.
Don't be tempted.
The murders inspired 2 films:
I
2007
was
Zodiac,
talking in before I
featuring
came into
Robert
this
Downey
breakout
Jr.
group with the others
and Jake
about
Gyllenhaal,
the comments
and Dirty
on-
Harry in
as a speaker or as
1971,
an
starring Clint
audience
Eastwood.
participant. I'm very 50-50 about the comment facility. And I was thinking, if I was watching a film, the cinema, if somebody's talking or
Okay,
making a
that's
comment or
insane.
whispering, it
Did
really
you know that the
drives me nuts
recommended
and
maximum level
influences
of
the way
salt
I am
intake per day
processing
is
the
5
information and
grams?
my own emotions. And I feel partly about that, about the comments during the talks,
That's a
but
lot.
partly
Give
interaction
you an
is
idea,
also
that's
good.
5,000
So
milligrams.
it's very 50-50 about it. I guess it's about how it's done, what are the protocols, but I think disrespectful comments are pretty out of order. But yeah.
You mean
so it
the
was
like the
interesting.
little the chat
Yeah.
stuff you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, it was
Yeah, I
so
know.
much that first the presentations and the chat distracted from each other, even when they actually were about each other sometimes. And second, the chat was just so much that it just froze occasionally. or trying to scroll up in the chat froze it for like 10 minutes, and I didn't dare touch anything. Yeah, it was just too much.
Yeah. It's not
I
a
turned that
criticism of the
stuff off.
organizers. It's not a criticism of the organizers because it's great they put it on and it's a learning process and you might do it differently next time. It's easy to nitpick, but it was an interesting experience watching them anyway. But it's almost like there should be 5 minutes time frame when you can have them and have that interaction. And but was it you, David, who were responding to them in the last bit of your talk? Which is
What are you
fine. That
doing
was
right now?
nice, actually.
See. Oh, yeah, I'm trying to see how this is all new to me. All of this. Well, mind you, we've all had to do Zooms for the last damn year. I'm finding all these new buttons.
I don't have problems with most dinosaur names, but I do have
Like breakout
some
room. This is
issues
totally
with
new to me. I
Chinese
had no
named
idea what this
dinosaurs.
was.
I just got dropped into this one. I got pulled out of another one mid-conversation and dropped into this.
Oh,
So I'm halfway through. I'm halfway through a conversation. So I presume you're talking about keyboard warriors in the middle of an actual conference.
You mentioned it to me. It was
Yes.
a big,
Yeah.
big dinosaur discovery.
That is par for the course though these days.
Like
Anything you do, like if you do some like live thing on Facebook or whatever, or there's always has to be the comment section. I don't know why, but it is, and it's where everyone gets their jokes out. That's what it is.
I know.
Can
I'll
I
make
ask,
jokes
though,
in the comments.
Rick, in particular, since you mentioned it, was there anything that did particularly bother you, or that you thought was particularly kind of not okay, or was it just?
I
you were
ignored
just
them.
talking about the comments
In a
in
way,
general.
I think they reflect people's biases. You know, I'm in a way I feel, well, I'm the one trying to be objective here, and you're actually not listening to me. You're just throwing your prejudices. Those comments reflect you're not listening to me. You're just, you know, you've got a preconceived idea. You've got assumptions. That's not objective. That's, but in a way, that's if that's how people are. That's how people are. It's instrumental. So it doesn't bother me. No, I don't do social media for two reasons on my subject, because there is a lot of trolling. There are a lot of mischief makers, a lot of people who are offended almost by the subject. I think it is very highly emotional in many different dimensions for people. So I can't do social media because I would be constantly having to monitor it and moderate it and respond and block people. But I also don't do social media because a lot of my investigation is privileged information, trust with people, often trust with influential people. And if they feel that I'm going to be blabbing about locations I'm going or wealthy people or businesses that I'm in touch with, they're not going to give me that information. So in a way, it's weird that I'm in a world that's minus social media.
Rick, have I heard you on Howard Hughes' Unexplained show in the UK?
Yes, you will have done.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I did actually think long and hard before going on that. But it's like I said about Monster Quest. Does Monster Quest give the wrong vibes for the subject? Well, it probably does. But I think although Howard Hughes deals with lots of unorthodox, edgy stuff, he does it in the right spirit, I think, with a sense of humanity and no big ego and and so I was happy to do that. And I think a lot of interesting, influential people engaged there.
He's a good moderator, isn't he?
Yeah. No, I think he's very decent. So yeah, but there'll be other places that discuss paranormal and other unorthodox subjects and fringe subjects where I would probably tactically avoid because I do feel I have to represent, and anybody representing this subject, and I think it's probably the same with Bigfoot in America. If you're going to do it seriously, I think you have to do it, have a sense of some professional standards and only mix in circles where there are some decent standards. I know that sounds a bit paranoid and over the top, but I think that's how I do it, and that's how I get my trust. Basically.
It can dilute your message if you're not careful.
Yeah. And there's plenty of many people come to this subject, and I bet similar unorthodox subjects with some kind of agenda or some kind of bias. And so I'm constantly checking for that. And sometimes a journalist will write a good story for something, a good feature on the topic, and then the editor will tweak it, so undermining it. That I've had journalists apologize to me saying, and show me the original one that was going to go in their online paper or whatever, and the editors obviously had an agenda or been terribly skeptical. Yeah. Gosh, we're losing people mid-conversation.
It's okay. You can just get new people mid-conversation. I'll pretend I was along for the ride.
On top of that, you got headline writers who are different people again. And yeah, headlines are often quite different from the content of the text.
How's the day been for everyone?
Good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Different.
Yeah.
Definitely different.
Nice to see people's faces.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing so many names that
yeah
on
Hello.
Twitter or other places over the
Hello.
last year, and it's like, oh, there's people behind those names. Amazing.
Do we know how many countries are represented in the whole gathering?
A lot.
Good question.
All right, how about we list them?
Yeah.
I'm from Bulgaria.
UK.
South
US here.
Yeah, we've got UK.
I'm in Germany, originally from Austria, and I did most of my PhD in France. So it gets complicated pretty quickly.
Hi, Peng. Hi, Peng.
Hi, Gareth.
Feel so untraveled now. Well, it's because I am, but
Dakota, where are you from? And Natty, where are you from?
Oh, I'm in the UK too.
Yeah, I'm in the US.
Yeah.
Talk to me, babe. What's going down?
Is the range of subjects okay, or is it too much? It's terribly difficult to know whether to just make it more themed, isn't it, or to have a diverse range of topics.
That's fine.
I liked it. I thought it was
Yeah.
generally representative of what usual TetZooCon is like. Actually.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I've only done one before. It reminds me of the last one last year.
Yeah, I mean, this is my first TetZooCon, so I'm picking the weird one to start with. But,
Yeah, this is my first as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it fits pretty well with the general subject matter of tetrapod zoology anyway. So I thought it was a great little kind of cross section of everything there. I really enjoyed the diversity of topics.
Yeah, the range of subjects is about the same as on the blog, so yeah, fine. That's what we come here for, basically.
And I think the mix, not just of subjects, but sort of how technical they are as well. I mean, to have that Anjali Goswami's presentation is like proper science with a capital S, followed by David Lindo's talk, which was just as interesting but very different. I mean, as someone who doesn't have any kind of professional stake in the field at all, it's interesting for me to see kind of different ways of talking about the same subject. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, well, and it's fun to hear people discuss their work and to actually, hear the background of it, the thought process, how they got there, kind of not just see it divorced from any of that in a standalone paper or publication somewhere, and also to just hear it explained to someone whose work is more science adjacent than actual science. I like the slightly smaller words.
What do you work on?
So I've joked I'm a semi-professional paleo artist. I've gotten a couple commissions this year doing paleo artwork and trying to get the ball rolling some more on that. But so like I said, I know enough of the science side to at least interpret the things I'm using for the base of my work. But when it comes to actually reading into the nitty gritty, it's kind of.
Who are the clients for paleo art for you?
So the two big commissions I had this year were one I actually got through an old professor of mine from college. His name's Dr. Chris Brochu, former grad student of his. The two of them were co-authors on a paper published in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology earlier this year. It was a big systematic review of Deinosuchus, the famous giant, dinosaur-eating alligatoid that we all know and love.
Well, that was you.
Yeah, that was, I ended up first commission outside of college. Like, wait, really? This is me? You want me? Like, ended up, on the cover of
I'll take the compliment.
Yeah. I'm, the imposter syndrome was real, but, so that was exciting. And then I had, another, for a different JVP article, another illustration that I did for the press material that went with it. Got that basically through someone I met on Twitter who was familiar with my work, passed my name along to the authors, and I had like 3 days to work on that one. They were like coming up fast on the publishing deadline or something, like, oh, we need an image.
So it's publications, is it? But is it presumably computer gaming and animations is a big client base?
I mean, it hasn't been for me personally because I'm just starting out, but I'm sure there's plenty of room for it out there. It's kind of where I've managed to.
I'm just looking at a couple of screenshots I took. And I mean, I'm not even running it on ultra quality, and it's still on 2K. I feel like as with any not on 4K. And even so, if you look at it, you could see some insane details. Like I got a picture there of that one brain dance specialist.
Tyler, how do you fight back against imposter syndrome?
You can see the fucking texture in the skin on her arm.
Please tell us. We all need to know.
I'm taking notes.
Big agree.
Screenshots.
To be honest, sometimes I just have to accept it a bit. Just like, I'm just starting out. Of course, I'm going to feel a little out of place, but everyone does, and you got to start somewhere. I think where I felt it the most has been like if I have been working on something for a little too long, and I'm getting to that point where like I've just been focusing on it and I'm starting to get frustrated with it. What helps calm that down and the feeling that goes with it is like just walking away from it for a bit and then coming back to it with fresh eyes definitely helps with like, oh, I didn't actually like completely ruin what I was working on. It's fine. I'm good. Good. It's what's the joke I've heard the cycle every artist goes through of inspiration, creation, self-loathing, rinse and repeat.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And knowing when to abandon your work.
Yeah, well, I mean, all art is, I think, no art is ever finished; it's just abandoned. I mean, for me, the imposter syndrome is like sometimes avoiding that is just having to accept that like it's probably the final product is probably not going to match what's in my head. So I just got to set what's in my head aside and let it turn into whatever it's going to turn into. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it's like, well, there was an attempt.
Yeah.
It's a mess, but it's my mess, so I guess I gotta take it for what it is. That's what I got, though. All right. Well, I have no idea what to contribute now. It's
meant to be a party, isn't it? I've heard.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't know. It's a little.
We need some music and some more drinks. That's what we need.
Yeah. So Tyler, you're Tyler Stone Art on Instagram, is that right?
Yeah, that's on Instagram and Twitter. I'm very bad about putting my artwork on Instagram because it just gets so compressed in general.
Yeah.
That, Tyler Stone Art on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me there, and if you are interested in seeing whatever I have to
weird, my hands are cold.
Toss out into the void.
Fucking joints.
That is the internet. But
I already found you, so
that's me.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm just looking through your tweets and
Something like
I've
that.
just noticed the Darren
Enjoy
H one
your
that says,
after
"Well,
party,
hello,
sorry,
imposter syndrome." That's relevant.
Yeah, that was. Oh yeah, it's well because when when Zoom is in speaker mode, it shows you at the top and then a bunch of other people after it. And so it's like, oh yeah, here's Darren speaking and all these artists that I admire up top, and then also I'm in the row.
Yeah, I got that as well when the workshop opened up. And I just
Like,
saw
wait-
everyone like David
wait a
Krentz,
second.
Darren Naish, Mark Whitten, and the like, and I'm just like, well then, I was not ready for this.
Yeah. To be
Didn't
fair though.
have enough time to get myself presentable or nothing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was great. It was when we had the first breakout session earlier today. It was like first one. I had like a nice sweater on. I felt all dressed up, and then when it ended, I thought it was over. So I was like, all right, going back to a t-shirt, having a beer, and that's when I got popped into the next room and was like, oh.
At least you didn't get caught with your trousers down or something.
Yeah, considering that's the whole, everyone's working from home nightmare this year. It could be worse. Yeah.
I appreciate your Alolan Executor. Is that a Gigantoraptor?
It was kind of just like a mix. Yeah, there's a little Gigantoraptor, a little Deinonychirus, but basically me just trying to be like, how do I take this completely ridiculous thing and make it look sort of like it makes sense? I don't know. That's very RJ Palmer inspired. I mean, like I loved his talk today because he's one of my favorite artists, and let's take a ridiculous design and try to nature's still ridiculous, but like make it look like it could maybe be a thing that would be alive in the world somewhere. Why not?
Yeah. Absolutely.
What's the reference material that you would use, another paleo artist would use? Is there a major trend of where you go for your references? And do you still use books at all?
Oh yeah. I've got tons of books on my shelf that are just, aside from just having info on them, they're great art reference for me. And I know even like at the beginning of the Paleo Art Workshop, for those who were in it, when Scott Hartman was introduced, because he does so many skeletal diagrams, everyone joked that it's like that. Where do you start with your work? You go to Scott Hartman's blog and find what you're reconstructing. But I think in general, I try to go with like what RJ was actually talking about in his talk earlier with paleo art as creature design, of like, look to nature, just try to start with I start with the fossils. I try to find good images of them, which now that I'm no longer in school and don't have that wonderful thing called institutional access anymore, sometimes easier said than done. Thank goodness for Sci-Hub. But wait, am I allowed to say that in a science conference? But like,
that paper of mine, the preprint of mine that I mentioned, easily half of the literature I needed for that. I don't even have institutional access to, so my institution doesn't have access to it. So Sci-Hub is all that remains. And in the acknowledgements, I actually wrote, "Lord to our pirate queen." Where without her work, like all this would have taken a lot longer, or parts of it would have been completely impossible, probably.
I quite often rely on people to sort of send me papers. So if something gets published and I don't have access to it because it's paywalled, then I'll hit up somebody who I know has got access to it, and they're usually very accommodating. So.
Oh yeah, it's generally my experience has not been that like, once someone has been, someone who's been working on a paper for who knows how long. Generally, my experience, once it's been published, they like want people to see it. Like, most people aren't going to turn you down if you ask them nicely for a copy.
Yeah.
Which it helps. Like I said, it's I just try to look to nature with everything, because generally whatever really weird thing you can think of for any creature design, nature's probably come up with something even weirder. Like if someone told you this thing was real, you wouldn't believe it until you actually saw it.
And nature tested it for you as well.
Yeah. So I know it works. Yeah, it's perfect.
Do you resort to model making for lighting or anything like that, or do you just rely on your own abilities?
That's something I would love to work on more. I took a couple animation classes in college, so I have some basic familiarity with Maya, but that program is also like, $1,000.
Right.
Of course. So I'd like to start trying to work in Blender a bit and doing some more 3D modeling stuff like that. But yeah, it's a matter of.
I actually meant it's not real clay. I meant, I didn't think of.
The issue then is I am already like have so many things crammed into my apartment that it's like buying clay and having a place to store it. That would be the challenge. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say no. I just it's a matter of having the time and money to get and work on all the materials.
But software prices put me off that, so I stick with real clay for now.
Yeah, I get that completely. It's things costing money.
Yeah,
it's dumb. Stupid.
Tell me about it. I spent about $40 printing this 3D printed Allosaurus germadsoni skull at my university library.
But you've got it forever, and it looks great.
Yeah,
Awesome,
sure does. Yeah, very
It's
beautiful,
amazing,
and very powerful.
I kind of feel really bad.
Did you do the mandible as well?
Every time I run
Mandible
into
that
fucking,
came out is kind of a hack job of a print and about 2 inches too long. Fortunately, doesn't quite fit the skull, so I'm gonna have another go at it, see if it works.
I mean, Allosaurus was well known for its famous underbite and being made fun of by all the other dinosaurs on the
thinking
playground.
about like redoing my character
Yeah.
or going back to
Poor
an early
Allosaurus.
save if I could.
But back to Rick's comment,
I don't
that
know
is
if
really
I
good
can.
value for money.
I don't know because I only
It
have
is actually.
one save.
Makes for a pretty good drawing reference, as
Yeah.
I've taken advantage of during this Paleo workshop.
That's what I need to.
As part of Raven Amos's workshop.
Nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That's what I need to
Very
start doing. Is get to the point where like I'm getting enough commissions that I could get like stuff like that skull or figures or something, and then just be like, yeah, it's a work expense. I can write it off my taxes. Yeah. Don't think about it. It's fine.
Yeah, for sure. Also, big shout out to Nati over here on the chat.
Thank you.
Big fan of your work. I
my
wonder
God,
why you
yeah.
weren't invited to host a Paleo workshop of your own.
Oh, thank you very much.
Definitely got some talent here.
Nate's awesome.
The insane level of detail is just like, teach me how.
Who are your clients, Natty?
Thank you. Oh, my clients. I'm not a paleo artist. That's the thing. I am an illustrator who happens to enjoy
Oh no, are you hungry? I'm still hungry.
natural history and by extension paleo art. So my work is largely children's books and things like literary classics.
I love that.
It might feel well. I do too. I think it gives. It's slightly an unusual route, I suppose. It's not what a lot of paleo artists come through via, as it were. I mean, as I say, I enjoy paleo art, but I haven't done any formal paleo art for anyone. I'm working on a book of dinosaurs, but that's going to be published by again, it's a children's book. It's a children's book publisher.
Oh wow!
But it's
interesting.
not. It's not.
Did you know that
museum or
as of last year, the world now is
not
more
the usual
overweight
paleo art
people than
clients,
those who weigh too little?
So I would be absolutely terrified to be asked to
According
do,
to a
a
worldwide
workshop,
survey,
to lead a
it has
workshop,
been
because
found
I
that
wouldn't even know where to
obesity is now
other than
a crisis worldwide,
besides the fact
and
that
that there are now
still,
more overweight people in the
resolutely
world than
refuse
those
to call
who weigh
myself
too
a
little.
paleo artist, just because there's a lot of.
I think whatever title you choose for yourself in the art industry, I think you can make a pretty good case case for whatever you feel works. You know.
Thank you.
I think there's necessarily one
for
right
sure.
way
We'll look forward to
and-
that book you're publishing.
Do you get conditions set from a publisher that you don't sort of like necessarily? Do they say certain restrictions on how the treatment, and you think, well, it's not going to work if I proceed along these instructions? Do you ever have that kind of conflict?
Do you mean for the books that I've done in general, or for?
Well, for any kind of client, but I guess particularly publishers. What kind of conditions do they lay down?
I think it varies a great deal. Actually, it depends on the sort of book and the sort of audience, and it varies from publisher to publisher as well. For the most part, the books that I've done have been with publishers that I've loved working with, and we have been very few disagreements actually. Sometimes marketing demands that you do have to stay within. Well, for instance, I think not quite my last book, but the book before last, The Nutcracker, published by Walker Books. When I was doing the cover illustration, one of the characters, the main antagonist in The Nutcracker, as I think a lot of you will know, is the Mouse King. And I drew a small silhouette of the Mouse King, and apparently that looked much too scary. And it's just it is the tamest thing you can imagine. It's just in silhouette. There is nothing there. It is the antagonist in the story itself, whose illustration appears inside the book. And you know, the silhouette that I drew for the cover doesn't differ from it in any substantial way. But somebody in marketing deemed it too frightening, and it had to be removed. You know, sometimes there are ridiculous things like that that you just have to yield to because there's nothing else you can do. But you know, but by and large, you know, I've enjoyed working with the publishers that I've worked with.
Well, I hate to interrupt here, but I think I'm gonna try to keep jumping around to some other rooms before I sign off for the day, meet some other people. But it's been great.
Oh yeah, that's
meet all you and speak to all you, especially you know, I'm seeing so many names that like I've come to know the last year. It's cool to actually like finally see the person behind it. So great talking with all you tonight.
Take care. Cheers.
Take care.
Oh, he's gone.
See you guys.
Do people have an interest in this de-extinction issue? And I was interested in David Lindo's comments that you can't bring a species back to today's circumstances. You know, I think that's interesting, but
I think I probably disagree a little bit with that in certain circumstances, because there's areas where animals are lost from an area and then brought back, and they improve the ecosystem by their reintroduction.
Yeah.
So
like
they're
wolves in Yellowstone.
Yeah, or there's some sort of, I can't remember where it is. It's some sort of desert rodent, I think. I can't remember what it was. Or beavers in the UK.
Yeah.
Bison in the UK, apparently. As
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a bit sweeping, wasn't it? That comment.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite interesting because your talk obviously followed Nick kind of discussing people bringing back perhaps the Eurasian lynx to the UK. I thought that was quite interesting because his view seemed to be very much don't mess around with adding things back. But I think you were also discussing the other side of kind of how people have already been bringing things back and how they might in the future and the sort of benefits that they may have. So I think it's quite interesting to see the two sides there.
There's accidental reintroductions such as boar.
Yeah,
and they already improve the ecosystem regarding the plant diversity.
Yeah. I think if people are against something, they'll invent excuses and exaggerate the negatives. But also, I think it works the other way. If people are pro something, they can exaggerate the benefits. And I often find, the middle ground is probably where it's at. But I think I don't like the term alien necessarily in terms of non-native, because a lot of people feel that's just have a prejudice. And in fact, a lot of studies show that the majority of non-native species anywhere don't cause problems. you just highlight the few that do, and of course they cause terrific problems, which and then the genie's out of the bottle, and it's very expensive and damaging to deal with. So I think it's our prejudices come with all these debates.
Yeah, and most people are perfectly happy to introduce non-native plants, etc., to their gardens, and it's being done whether you want it to be or not.
Yeah, yes. Just got to manage the issues if they need management. Yeah.
Yeah.
On passenger pigeons specifically, I think supposedly they didn't breed unless they were in a huge swarm. So basically, you can't bring that species back.
Right. And if you had a genetic stock to use to de-extinct them, it wouldn't be diverse enough, would it? I presume.
Wondering if you are.
I'm not sure there's enough habitat or food source today where huge flocks could, naturally rise.
Yeah, you'd have to engineer a situation where you could do it in one hit, I suppose.
And suddenly it starts becoming more and more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that some of these issues are cultural biases and our favorite, and the charisma is the creature charismatic. But I think what's more important is its function in the habitat, its function in the ecosystem, and can that be sustained in a modern way? And is that necessary? Is it helpful in a modern way?
Yeah, and that charisma aspect that you talk about, it's very easy to sell a charity dedicated to a panda or a snow leopard than it is to a brain-eating snail that is a decomposer on the. That's a real example. I can't remember the details, but it's moving towards extinction if it isn't already. That particular snail.
Yeah,
but it's hard to sell.
Yeah.
On the same note of, sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
On the same note of charismatic animals, any thoughts on Pleistocene rewilding, or should the extinction focus on more of the historically recent?
Recent, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think recent would be the better one to start with as well. Because if we're talking about the world changing, then the world's definitely changed less in the last few hundred years than it has the last few tens of thousands of years.
I do think it depends on circumstance and objectives. If there's some benefits, well, a lot of it might depend on who's prepared to fund it and who's prepared to manage the consequences. But
yeah, and if that animal's impact is seen as sort of climate and geoengineering because it has that much of an impact and it might improve things, there might be more
relevant.
Yeah,
I think it doesn't depend. The historical context is not as important as the contemporary need for it, or the contemporary benefit, or contemporary funding.
But if it's recently lost, then there's probably more likely to be a genetic stock to work with, or something like that. That's more viable.
Yeah, but I mean, in the context of Pleistocene rewilding, you'd use, say, African and Asian wildlife, African bush elephants or lions, or, as surrogates for the megafauna lost at the end of the Ice Age. If there's a measurable impact to where, those animals would improve the soil ecology and improve carbon sequestration, would that be better in the short term than, say, the consequences of having those big animals in more populated areas?
Depends on a lot of things, I guess.
But even the potential educational benefits of debating that and seeing a few experiments, and where that leads to, I think, as long as it's carefully managed, I think, it's not just about the creature itself; it's the human chain reaction to it, and our thinking about the ecosystem, how the ecosystem functions for nature and for us now. It's all helpful stuff, I think.
Sure, and there's many extant animals we can't even keep safe today, so we'd have to throw a lot of energy at protecting those.
Yeah.
Well, as you mentioned, ecosystems have changed. So if you introduce a new animal, you would have to adapt an ecosystem so that the animal could work. You can't just throw a mammoth to North America right now.
And you potentially impact other animals and organisms within that ecosystem.
Exactly. I've heard the argument that The current ecosystem with its extinctions and invasive species is actually, well, a new ecosystem, and every ecosystem has its niches that are slowly being filled. So there's even an argument that one shouldn't mess with that ecosystem to bring it to what it was before. It's a tough discussion, really.
Yeah. The other point would be that these things, these ecosystems and habitats are constantly changing, constantly in ebb and flow. There's no line in the sand. There's no golden age when nature was pure, and it's just a cocktail now. And we manage that cocktail for our own cultural prejudices and for ecosystem functions that we need now. And we often get it wrong, but it's all the art of the possible. I have a lot of friends who are purists and a lot of friends who are pragmatists, and it's a good debate. That both sides are right in their own way, but I think the real world just has to be pragmatic, and it's constantly changing.
Yeah, and you either keep humans out of it or you don't.
Yeah,
you can't. Right now, you cannot keep the humans out of it. I live next to the Amazon, so if you reintroduce a ground sloth in the Amazon, you're going to hurt a lot of indigenous people.
Yeah.
So what can you do? You get the indigenous tribes out of the Amazon, or you don't reintroduce native South American megafauna.
Is that a real example, by the way, or is that just a?
It's simply a metaphor.
Oh, okay, right.
Human population definitely had an impact in South America, especially South America and Australia. However, there's still tribes in the Amazon, and they are hurting just a tiny bit, not as much as petrol companies or oil extraction, but you cannot get the tribes out, or the Galapagos Islands as well. You cannot get the people who are living in the Galapagos to go out. So what can you do? Do you only bring back a species that could live alongside humans? Or what do you do?
Really know which ones those are.
Exactly. That's an issue. You don't know how people or the reintroduced species would react. It's different with recently extinct animals, as you were saying. But with older animals, it's quite different, I think. It's really hard.
And with things like wolves, and you don't know how they're going to move around and in which directions. But wherever they are, they're going to influence the herbivores, certainly.
Well, people's cats start disappearing.
Yeah. Well, that happens on my subject. I think a lot, one of the consequences of my subject is the domestic cats.
Oh, that happens wherever you have coyotes,
Yeah.
Which, and that suits some people want less domestic cats anyway. But...
Yeah. Keep them in.
Hide your cats and hide your dogs. Leopards are coming to town.
Hi, Jed.
Oh my.
Hello. How you doing?
Good, you?
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, good to see one of the master paleo artists roll into one of these rooms.
Well, I don't know about that.
All doing the rounds at the moment.
Yeah. Just sort of playing with objects. Got all sorts of bits of models.
Oh, wow.
Did we see that? That was the last TetZooCon, yeah?
Yeah, he didn't have any paint on there.
No.
It's got some paint on now, but still not completed.
You're taking it slow.
I keep asking who your clients are, so I don't know Jed's work. So who are your clients, Jed?
Nobody particularly. I mean, whoever will take me.
Yeah, but
I'll make. I sell quite a lot of like T-shirts and stuff like that, like prints and stuff. For just the private people, then I do private commissions. And I've got a few things that working on at the moment that are going to be at Woolerton Hall in Nottingham, where I'm from. That's about it, really. Actually, that's not true. I've done things for just random places. Like I've illustrated a few press releases for papers and traveling shows in America and stuff. They just come through the internet. So just whoever finds me and asks me to do a thing, whenever I'm summoned, I appear. Start drawing theropods.
Great. So there's no one client base or no one trend of your market?
Not really. No.
So have you just sort of reached critical mass in terms of your existence online, and enough people find you when they want you?
I think so. I've had a bad year. I've had a quiet year, so I've not been as active. But when I'm regularly posting and uploading new stuff, I probably get too many requests for commissions, but most of them probably aren't stuff that I want to do anyway. So,
You people who don't want to pay?
Or stuff where it feels like it's going to be a struggle to get the right amount of money for the amount of work it's going to take.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think if people haven't commissioned something before, then they have a weird sense of how much it's going to cost them to get something new. That's why, so I've been making a lot of like models like this. I was doing this a lot last year. And these are kind of, they're sort of priced themselves out of the market. So I was really hoping to get into doing some digital sculpting and 3D printing so that I'd be able to mass produce.
They're all polymer clay ones, are they?
These are all polymer clay, yeah. They're all handmade. So like something like that, you know, it's smooth. That doesn't take that long to make and paint. But something like the Ceratosaurus, where every single scale, even these tiny scales here, it's all like hand sculpted, so it takes forever.
You're a madman.
Yeah. No. Well, it's not finished, is it? And it's been unfinished for over a year. So.
Did you finish that book you were working on?
No.
I can't say anything, so.
No, I didn't. I've got a few books that I'm working on, and none of them are really any closer to completion. I wanted to make I want to make a book about Megalosaurus for it's going to be the 200-year anniversary of the naming of Megalosaurus, which is the oldest first named dinosaur.
Bucket taxon.
Yeah, so I want to make a thing of that, and that's what these ones. I don't know if you saw these. This pair. So I just made them for reference for a drawing, but they're going to be posed sort of like that.
I asked a question to Tyler, who I think left before you joined, about whether he made models for referencing, and he was talking about, you know, possibly getting into, I think, digital artwork in order to get lighting and stuff. But you've actually made actual physical 3D real world models.
Yeah, I made them. I thought they'd just be simple, but then obviously I thought I'll put a bit of paint on them as well, because then that's going to be reference for the colours. So then I've probably gone a little bit overboard, to be honest. Like, they probably don't need the level of detail that I've put on them in terms of like all the stripes and spots and markings and stuff. So they're still quite simplified forms in terms of their bodies, but their markings, I probably spent a bit too long on those.
Because you've got to paint it all again the next time you actually paint the 2D version.
Yeah, but in theory, it's going to make it a lot easier, right? Like, I don't have to make any. There's no guesswork. I don't have to make any choices at that point. I just render what I've been able to photograph, and they're for a piece which is going to be the composition and the everything about it, even the colors that those two are, comes from a painting that was done in the same year as Megalosaurus was named. That's kind of a classical style painting of some like sort of heroic figures, like a couple, Daphnis and Chloe, which is like an older story, but one that was illustrated in whenever it was 1824. I'm going to say 1824. Sounds about right.
Jed, do you know the
Oh yeah, 1824.
Ballet by Ravel of Daphnis and Chloe?
Yeah, no, I only know anything about Daphnis and Chloe from finding that painting and then researching it from that point on. But yeah, I did see that there was a. Nata, your hair is looking incroyable.
Thank you. I'm not at all convinced, but you're very kind.
Might I ask if what your Megalosaurus book is going to be about? It's history, ecology.
It's gonna
if you're
be,
allowed to discuss the information.
It's going to be an art book, really. So, but yeah, everything. So kind of, I want to have some, sort of information about its discovery, information about, like, what I'm quite interested in is the cross point between the history and the research. So like, how does the discovery of dinosaurs and the scientific discussion of dinosaurs, how does that sort of interact with popular culture at the time? So like, that's why I wanted to draw these direct links of, like, say, in the year when you had Megalosaurus being named, you also had art of this style.
You want to come by and
stuff like that, basically. I wanted to sort of
chill
tie
out.
that together, but it will mostly be pictures, right? Like, it will mostly be a book of nice, high quality pictures, some of which will be, so that one could function as paleo art, because there won't be anything in the picture when it's finished that isn't accurate to the time. So as well as being a reference to the other artwork, it's its own piece of paleo art. But then there's other things, like there's my I don't know, some of you will have definitely seen, but my Megalosaurus, Crystal Palace Megalosaurus in the Jurassic Park. It's like a shot from Jurassic Park, but with the Crystal Palace Megalosaurus.
I've seen that. That's a good one.
So that will be in there as well. It will be a real mixture of different styles and stuff. Like,
no, I was
just
just reading
a little
a really quick
celebration,
article about
200
a
years
woman,
of Megalosaurus, and then if that works out well, I can do
gone
another
and
one for
started
Iguanodon,
protesting against
which is
the
like
police in China
following
because
year, I think.
the fucking police publicly online shamed her for
That was my
catching
current
COVID.
book
10 years or so
ideas.
for Hylosaurus.
Yeah. Well, then the good thing is as well, if it works out, I can keep doing them infinitely, right? You just do the 100-year
Eventually do a
anniversary.
Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah, well, I was sort of thinking, like, what might be nice is, because Megalosaurus has existed for those 200 years, so what if I did some illustrations of it that's maybe like a 1930s style understanding of what the dinosaur would have looked like, but then combined with references to some art style from the 1930s, and you can bring that all the way up to, like, if you imagine like a 70s style Megalosaurus in terms of the science, and then all the different sorts of, you could go as far as like album covers and all sorts. Like,
I want to see an Art Deco dinosaur. That would be great.
oh yeah, no, that's definitely that's 100% on the agenda.
What? What creates advances in paleo art? Digital printing, 3D printing, self-publishing, the trends that sort of really make it leap forward.
They actually did it.
Not Hollywood.
Wow.
That's for sure.
Fucking
Well, I think
rock star. That's dirty.
I think
as
outside
shit.
of the the scientific advances, so like the actual research progressing, which obviously has a
They
has a
took
knock-on
Red
effect
Dead
on
Redemption's
what is being
online feature
produced. I think in general
and
there's been a
turned it
big
into
there's
its
been a
own
big
game.
change over the last,
They basically
I don't
took
know, however many like couple
Red
of
Dead
decades,
Redemption Online,
which
like
is
the other half of the game,
more people are
and
now able
separated
to
it from
create
that
art,
game
I
and
think,
made it its own
than
game that you have to
historically.
purchase
Like if you'd
separately
have
now.
needed, I don't know, in 1824 you'd
They
have needed
basically made the multiplayer of the
canvas,
game
paints,
a second
you know, all things